Hello and welcome to some more Star Citizen. We've got a meaty dev response today from Cloud Imperium, looking at something that's been a little bit controversial and polarizing for a while, the light ship meta, and how that's dominating the current combat game. We also have a quick summary of what's been happening over the last week. The ship showdown had a little controversy. There's been a mini patch which got delayed, but it's coming out this week. The Siege of Orozen's also returning real soon, and so is Xenothreat at some point. Phase 2 of the ship showdown is about to start. On the 31st of August, in fact. The Greycat Buggy and the Saber Raven are not eligible for this phase of the ship showdown. So the Greycat PTV, that buggy, is getting a rework, and Cloud Imperium don't have to make a skin and items for it this stage and then have to make them again. So they've gone, it's not eligible, but we're going to make a special free skin because of its sort of popularity once that vehicle has been updated. The Raven was a special promo ship, so Cloud Imperium aren't going to be selling it again or allowing it to go into phase 2 because a load of those ship showdown ships will be on sale again, and the top 8 will also be part of a free fly. They don't want to have the Raven as part of that. So Cloud Imperium went on to say, we think there's a lot we can do to improve the ship showdown further, and we're looking forward to some changes that were introduced in 2023, including vehicle type specific categories. More on that later though. We were supposed to have a hotfix and new mini patch for Star Citizen Alpha 3.17.2, that live build, over the weekend. However, Cloud Imperium put out a statement, due to unforeseen issues, we're going to move the hotfix patch to mid next week, so Tuesday or Wednesday, 30th or the 31st. Jumpdown is also going to be on the servers all next weekend from the 2nd of September at 10 PM UTC. That's when it starts. For those of you interested in some other events, Cloud Imperium said that they are going to bring back the Siege of Orozen mid-September. That's going to be more info on that in the weeks to come. And for those of you wondering about Xenothreat, they went on to say Xenothreat has a few critical bugs and elements that we wanted to fix and address before we activated it again. This is being worked on already, and we're eager to roll it out again soon. Inside Star Citizen last week looked at new sand caves coming in Alpha 3.18, and they're not going to have missions attached, I don't believe, or multiple entrances. It's just going to be FPS entrances, but then they're going to expand them out to have more content. Cloud Imperium are also working on icy caves, acid caves, and overgrown caves for the future too. Next year, we're going to see Cloud Imperium get the new player experience in games to plan. So that's basically going to be getting players through the game from spawning in their hab for the first time to shopping, to getting to their ship, to doing some missions, basic flight control, stuff like that, all without external help. Very good to build that into the game. It's very important. There was no Star Citizen Live or sneak peek last week, unfortunately. Right, let's move on to the more meaty bit. There was a thread on Spectrum. Cloud Imperium Games, it's time to address the light fighter meta. The original OP, original poster, laments at the current state of the light fighter meta and how powerful light fighters are and how they just overly dominate medium and heavy fighters and any other ship. And basically, other ships just seem to get nerfed, and then they just seem to buff other ships like the Blade, which now is relatively unkillable due to a mixture of bugs, but also overpowered changes. What is Cloud Imperium going to be doing about this meta and the future of ship combat? Yogi Clap responded here to not just the original poster, but a huge amount of other people as well. So I'm just sort of going to crush down the data here and explain it best I can. So he said, what is currently experienced as the light fighter meta is not intended. We stated quite often that we want to avoid any kind of meta, and that current state is not reflective at all of the goal state we are aiming for and working on. In one of last year's ISCs, Inside Star Citizens, we talked about our combat plans, and we went to work on that stuff right after 3.14 was shipped. I can't go into the details at this point, but I can say the bulk of our iterations on the combat system since that Inside Star Citizen hasn't seen the eye of the public yet. In our current internal playtests, which include a large chunk of flight model changes, we don't see a dominant meta gameplay for light fighters, e.g. even in the intended dominant area of light fighters, which is 1v1, medium fighters and soloed heavy fighters are still competitive if they're used right. However, that work is still not in the shape that we'd want it for a release, so it will take a little while until you can see it. I know that's a bit generic, but that's as much as I can say without Jared locking me away and losing the key. In regards to the Vandal Blade, he went on to say, because the blade was a very strong balance offender, it was basically useless before, and we had to adjust it. That's the problem with its sort of current OP nature. Right now, the blade is too strong, so more changes will be done in the future. Talking about feedback, iteration, and how that affects balance and features, Yogi said, we work very closely with the player experience team, which tracks filters and expands on player feedback and realigns us if necessary. They and some of the other teams provide internal flight PvE and PvP experts too. They played Star Citizen way before they got into the company, which we're using to run gameplay tests and iterate. We meet with them at least twice a week with our internal combat group. I'm reasonably confident about our progress as the internal feedback is pretty positive so far. It's of course impossible to please everyone, so we'll see how it will hold up with the normal player base later. But still, my experience tells me that it still won't be perfect on the first try and will require iteration after the initial release. Concerning pre-gameplay feedback, I'm always very cautious about feedback that's given without actually playing the game. Hover mode is an interesting example here because a pure description would not have showed up the issues it ultimately had. Today, I'd like to think the problem was not the core mode itself, but rather the lack of appropriate UI and flight assists. It was simply too early to be released, but you couldn't have judged it without playing it. And as a side note, hover mode was still a very successful project for us, as it was not a big investment, and we learned a lot from it. See Gravlev. And it ultimately improved our delivery quality. I have similar thoughts about pure gameplay design descriptions. Their value is rather limited until you can actually get around to prototype them out. Playing is always the key. But ultimately, what we show to players at what time is not up to our team. Seeing the thread numbers rise here, I just popped over to let everyone know that we understand the points, know about the issues, and frankly we do agree with a lot of them, and that we're working on resolving them. But handing out details about yet to be announced changes is not happening in an arbitrary Spectrum dev post. There are more suitable formats for that. YogiClat did go on to say some other bits as well. Within our group of combat devs, our priority is not on polishing the current, aka Persistent Universe, combat experience, but to get the future combat experience in a good shape. Working on both at the same time is absolutely the definition of slowing us down. Time is by far the most rare resource we have as developers, and we want to minimize the amount of redundant work. There is no as of now state for a lot of our post 3.14 work, as it's simply not ready to work with the full PU yet. The thought comes to mind, why not just port things over to the Persistent Universe now? Every single additional ticket we currently do for the current PU combat experience, be it tweaking the acceleration of a ship or some bullet numbers on a weapon, might not individually mean much, but they absolutely add up to hours and sometimes days for our team members because of data or code changes that need to be reviewed and potentially reworked before they are submitted to the release branch. And quite often after that, changes need to be manually merged back into the dev streams, which in turn can cause merge conflicts, which then need to be resolved, which is also a time-intensive process, as we have a lot of dev streams to handle. That all takes up valuable time, which eats into the actual work that we want to do. In addition, our internal devs versions are much further ahead, and the large chunks of new code or data are often incompatible with older versions. It's just a lot of stuff to port over. The main 3.17 release stream was branched out almost at the beginning of the year, while the rest of the game dev streams went ahead. That's a very long time for software to change. I'm not making excuses here at all, I'm just describing what kind of challenges we have when it comes to balance our time. We simply don't have enough resources. That means trained and effective team members to develop and support and maintain multiple combat experiences fully at the same time. Like in almost every other job on this planet, you get the most out of your time by setting a proper focus, and that's what we're trying to do. Boom. That's it for your Star Citizen update today. But what do you think? Do you think that Cloud Imperium will get the ship combat meta in a good state anytime soon? Obviously, that's their goal eventually. There's a load of things to come along with sort of like physicalized components and physical damage and a whole host of other things with power relays and all that sort of stuff that will allow them to get ship combat into a much more finalized state, but there's obviously a lot of stuff they can do between now and then. Are you looking forward to the fixes coming with Alpha 3.17.2 and then the Siege of Orison running again mid-September? What ship or vehicle are you getting behind for this ship showdown? Whatever your thoughts, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. You're on a plane, it's about to crash. Maybe you're in a jungle and a vicious predator attacks. There's a nuclear war and you're caught short on the toilet. You're drowning in shark-infested waters. How did you get here? What do all these scenarios have in common? That's right, easily preventable with the use of nordvpn.com/boardgamer. It's like the ultimate survival toolkit, but to aid in internet security and accessibility. Now I can watch my favourite Netflix and anime shows from a different country while I'm lost in the rainforest just before a tiger eats me. Thanks nordvpn.com/boardgamer. You can get discounts by using the links below. But please note that probably in the case of a plane crash or, you're drowning, NordVPN might not be the most effective solution. Every month we have a Star Citizen ship giveaway. This month we're giving away an RSI Scorpius heavy fighter. This 2-seater powerful heavy fighter allows you to pretend you're in Star Wars with your X-Wing. It comes with a lifetime insurance and access to Star Citizen, so even if you haven't got a Star Citizen account already, you can play the game. To be in for a chance of winning that, just comment on any of my videos made during August. A massive thank you to everyone that subscribed to the channel or just watches my content or comments and likes and shares those videos. It really genuinely does help. And if you want to go the extra mile to help support the channel, you can click on the join button under any of my videos or click on the links to Patreon. It all goes a huge way to help the channel grow and expand. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great time in Alpha 3.17.2 and I hope to see you in the verse.